In this section, we're going to look at how you develop the change management plan. The purpose of developing the change management plan is to document the actions, timelines, and resources needed to deliver the change. Change management strategy provides the why and what, and the change management plan provides the how. Change management plan is a series of component plans that define the scope of the change effort and how it will be undertaken, controlled, and monitored. The change management plan should reflect the overall complexity of change effort and consider objectives and goals, intended outcomes of the change effort as defined in 5.1, evaluating change impact and organizational readiness, steps to address the change and by whom, how to facilitate the change effort, how the change management effort will be implemented, transitioned, sustained, dependencies of the change plan activities, and assumptions, issues, and risks. When developing the change management plan, questions to consider and respond to may include what mechanisms will be used to ensure the workforce has or acquires the required skills and competencies. Will technology components be required to facilitate the transition? If so, how will they be incorporated? How will workforce adjustment logistics be managed? And what mechanisms will be used to ensure the necessary behaviors and attitudes have been adopted? And how will progress be monitored? Next, we'll look at how you develop a comprehensive change management plan. This should include required actions and baseline measurements as they pertain to a change effort's scope, expected benefits, role requirements, resources, activities, schedule, risk, and measurement. The level of detail of the change management plan should reflect the complexity and risk of the change effort. Key components of the change management plan include resource plan. This defines what resources, for example, people, capability, or skill sets, location, equipment, will be necessary to accomplish the tasks. Number 2, sponsorship plan. This identifies the change sponsors and defines a course of action to develop and strengthen the competencies required to effectively lead or sponsor a change initiative. Third, stakeholder engagement plan. This identifies actions to engage groups or individuals affected by the change, and then mitigate their resistance to and enlist their support, adoption, and ownership of the change. Fourth, communication plan. This defines internal and external audiences, information, and feedback required for those leading and affected by the change, and specific communication activities and events. Fifth, impact assessment and readiness plan. This identifies the action, roles, and responsibilities for detailed and impactful analysis, following the high-level impact analysis undertaken in the assessment phase described in 5.1, evaluating change and impact and organizational readiness. Details how and when impacts will be captured during the design, build, and implementation phase of the project, including impact categorization, mapping and ownership of impact mitigation and management. The readiness plan identifies the organization, customer readiness criteria, and readiness management approach. Sixth, learning and development plan. This identifies needs and knowledge gaps of those affected by the change and provides a course of action to prepare end users with the skills and knowledge necessary to navigate the change. Seventh, measurement and benefit realization plan. This defines processes and actions to monitor and track progress on the project's key performance indicators as defined in the project charter, and it identifies when mitigation strategies need to be implemented if the change effort falls short of its goals. And eighth, sustainability plan. This provides an approach to maintaining new processes and achieving a day-to-day method of doing business once the change has become a way of working in business as usual. The change management plan will be shared and reviewed with key stakeholders and should be continually monitored and updated needed. Following sections provide the specific details of the component plan. First, the resource plan. This defines the human, physical, and financial resources needed to implement the expected benefits of the change effort. It identifies how to acquire resources and a timeline for resource utilization. The following sections describe the key components of the resource plan. Human resources. The resource plan defines the type of labor needed to support the change management effort. Defining roles and responsibilities for each type of labor ensures that individuals with certain skills and capabilities are in the right roles and performing the requisite tasks. These individuals range from the effective support sponsor driving the change effort and individuals responsible for leading the change effort to those providing support and participating on the change management team. To ensure that the correct resources fill key roles in the change effort, skills and capabilities must be defined along with the number of people required for each role. One person may have multiple roles depending on the scope of change, size of the organization, geography, and other factors. The next step is to perform a gap analysis to determine if the skills required exist in the organization can be filled by a stakeholder or if third-party service providers, for example consultants, will be required. Final step is to create a staffing plan that assigns roles and individuals to specific change management tasks. Physical resources. The resource plan determines the physical resources needed to support the change effort. Internal resources or external vendors can provide physical resources such as systems, hardware, software, and other technical infrastructure, as well as facilities, workspace, furniture, and other physical needs for accomplishing the initiative goals. Financial resources. The resource plan ensures the costs of all the resources supporting the change effort are appropriately budgeted for and approved in the overall project plan. Costs associated with the resource plan will adhere to a defined review and approval process. The resources identified in the plan will be budgeted and staffed as part of the overall project plan. Inputs include change management resources, roles and responsibility strategy, communication strategy, learning and development strategy, change resources inventory, procurement guidelines and policies. Outputs include a resource plan. Next, we will look at the communication plan, which defines the internal and external audiences, information, and feedback requirements of those leading and affected by the change, as well as the specific communication activities and events. Strategic communication activities may include messaging that addresses the case for change, how the change aligns with the organizational strategy, why the change is occurring, intended outcomes and benefits of the change, and the risks or consequences of a failed effort. More tactical communications could include status reports and how-to guides for technology changes. The communication plan should include all actions needed to build awareness of the change and clearly outline what is expected from the people affected by the change. Communication plan includes key components such as target audience. This segments the stakeholder audiences according to demographics, outcomes, and the role stakeholder groups may have in change effort. There are often multiple stakeholder groups with different communication needs. Communication should be developed accordingly. The audiences should encompass stakeholders directly impacted by the change along with those not impacted but who should be aware of the change. Outcomes. This defines what the audience should know, think, and do because of communication actions. Some communications may be for informational purposes only, whereas others may be required to drive desirable behaviors. Sender. Identifies from whom the communication will come. Strategic communication should come from organizational leadership or other key leaders to ensure maximum impact. The change sponsor typically communicates regarding topics that define the change, and the sponsor should demonstrate support. Other leaders of the change team may communicate directly to stakeholder groups for tactical communications. Key messages describes the words and visuals that will drive achievement of the individual or the intended communication goal for each unique stakeholder group. And communication channels identifies the specific ways that information is distributed to and received back from stakeholder audiences. Channels should be selected based on their potential effectiveness in reaching each target audience. For maximum effectiveness, channel selection should factor in the purpose of communication, audience demographics, content, messaging, and interaction or feedback requirements. Examples of communication channels include email, social media, town halls, webinars, meetings, intranets, collaboration sites, video, newsletters, posters, and digital signage. Most change activities require that multiple channels be used for effective communication. Effective communication plans should allow for two-way conversations that provide opportunities for conversation and dialogue. Frequency specifies the number of times key messages will be communicated in selected channels. Most change activities require a relatively high frequency of messages being communicated to stakeholder audiences. Timing defines the schedule for communication activities. This ensures the timeliness of communications and prevents communication overlap for multiple stakeholders. Reviewing non-project communications against the change communication plan can avoid saturation. Costs and resources are identified and are needed to produce and distribute the communication. These costs should be integrated into the overall project budget. Reviewers and approvers identifies the individuals that need to review and approve the plan. Monitoring and feedback. Monitoring and adjusting the communication plan ensures continued effectiveness to achieve the expected benefits of the change effort. Clearly defined feedback mechanisms, for example, surveys, focus groups, and help desk tickets, assess the effectiveness of the plan. Communications may need modification to address cultural norms of a diverse workforce. Inputs include communication strategy, current communication channels, tools, and methods, key messages, learning and development strategy, project charter and documentation, project schedule and plan, sponsorship strategy, stakeholder analysis, stakeholder engagement strategy, and transition strategy. Output is the communication plan. Next, we will look at the sponsorship plan. Sponsorship plan defines how to identify, develop, and strengthen the competencies required to lead sponsor a change initiative. This plan builds awareness, establishes understanding, and defines a leader-sponsor core responsibilities in a change management activity. If a sponsor is resistant to any of the responsibilities, then these issues must be addressed in the early stages. Key components of a sponsorship plan include definition of specific responsibilities for leaders and sponsors, agreement by leaders and sponsors regarding their responsibilities, including how they will work with others engaged in change activity, learning and development plan for the leaders and sponsors. Inputs include sponsorship strategy, sponsorship alignment assessment, stakeholder analysis, and sponsor assessment. Outputs include a sponsorship plan. The stakeholder engagement plan outlines the activities metrics that will be established to ensure stakeholders and stakeholder groups can make the changes required or complete the steps that will help make change successful in an organization. Stakeholder engagement activities are designed to address the outcomes of a stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder analysis identifies gaps between the current state of a stakeholder or stakeholder group and the future state. In order for successful organizational change to occur, gaps that exist between current and future states need to be eliminated. A good stakeholder analysis identifies the key components of those gaps, and the stakeholder engagement plan provides the relevant activity to address components and close the gaps. A number of tactics can be employed in a stakeholder engagement plan. The most common activities include formal, two-way, and informal communication, learning, development, training, and discovery activities, rewards, recognition, reinforcement, and consequences. Successful stakeholder engagement plans include clear metrics to ensure that the plan is meeting the intended outcomes. A number of factors should be included when designing stakeholder engagement activities, including organizational culture, other change initiatives affecting stakeholders, activities that will get and keep a stakeholder's attention, stakeholder needs, and specific engagement required for successful change to occur in a stakeholder or group. As with many of the components of a well-managed change, stakeholder analysis and stakeholder engagement plans are iterative. Stakeholder engagement plans are updated as needed and adjusted based on metrics measuring the effectiveness of the activities. Stakeholder engagement plans also include activities designed to drive the behavior of stakeholders that can affect the overall success of the change. These types of activities can include tools, templates, and key messages that enable stakeholders to customize and personalize their behavior and messaging to the employees that they are trying to impact. These activities and their timing are driven by factors such as the project plan, project timing, position, or potential impact of the stakeholder or stakeholder group, and the status of the overall change at any given moment. Stakeholder engagement plan activities should align with sponsorship plans. A clearer and most holistic message can be received when change sponsors and influence stakeholders deliver consistent messages. Inputs include stakeholder analysis, stakeholder engagement strategy, communication strategy, sponsorship strategy, change risks. Outputs include a stakeholder engagement plan. The learning and development plan identifies knowledge gaps and training needs for those affected by the change, and then provides a course of action developing end users so they'll be prepared with new knowledge and skills to adopt the change successfully. Key components of the learning development plan include learning groups, learning curriculum, skills inventory and gap analysis for each learning group, ongoing learning tools, for example, job aids, quick tips, frequently asked questions, refresher guides, learning delivery plan, and a learning evaluation and optimization plan. Learning and development design and delivery should be continually assessed and adjusted as needed to ensure continued effectiveness to achieve the expected benefits of the change effort. The plan should identify additional training and other learning resources as new phases of the process are introduced. Inputs include learning and development strategy, stakeholder analysis, learning needs assessment. Outputs are learning and development plan. Next, we'll look at the measurement and benefits realization plan, which defines processes and actions to monitor and track progress of the project's key performance indicators and expected benefits, as stated in the project charter and the strategy plan. The measurement and benefit realization plan provides a means of identifying when mitigation strategies need to be implemented if the effort is falling short of its goals. The measurement and benefit realization plan should include project baseline performance on key objectives and goals and track how those key indicators objectives are affected throughout the change effort. It should specify measurement activities that provide valid and reliable data for tracking activity and effects on performance. Key components of a measurement and benefit realization plan include a schedule of measurement activities including type, frequency, how it's conducted and by whom, a report template for reporting measurement results as defined intervals to defined groups and individuals who own the metrics and are responsible for taking action to ensure targets are achieved. Inputs include measurement and benefit realization strategy, change definition, change objectives and goals, and a vision statement. An output is a measurement and benefit realization plan. Next, we'll look at the sustainability plan, which should be developed to define the mechanisms that will be used to anchor and embed the change once it's implemented and is determined to be effective. Sustainability plans should minimally include the following components: communication, including mechanisms for persuasive communication, ongoing socialization of the change, rites of parting, saying goodbye to the old ways of doing things, and rites of enhancement, acknowledgement of quick wins and continued adoption. Second component is metrics tracking, consistent and effective process for ongoing measurement and results reporting to track progress and ensure sustained results. Third is performance management, consistent process for observing and objectively measuring desired behaviors and attitudes, including performance appraisal process, promoting, demoting, and transfer of experience and knowledge. Sustaining ownership is consistent process for ensuring sustained ownership of the change through the ongoing transfer of experience and knowledge. Continuous improvement mechanisms for responding to changing requirements and implementing improvements based on feedback, observations, and metrics. Some questions to consider and respond to when developing the sustainability plan may include: how should organizational achievements reinforcing the change be commemorated? What behaviors should be observed and measured on a regular basis? What results should be observed and measured on a regular basis? What metrics should be used for measuring behavior and results? What mechanisms should be used for reporting results? What criteria should be used for allocating rewards and promotion? What mechanisms should be used for training, coaching, and role modeling? What processes and procedures should be put in place to ensure sustained ownership of the change? And what continuous improvement mechanisms will address low adoption rates and ensure the change becomes part of the organization's normal functioning? Inputs include status report and benefit gaps analysis, resource plan. Outputs are a sustainability plan. Next, we will look at integrating change management and project management plans. As we've said before, the relationship is highly dependent on the nature of the change program as defined in 4.4 Relationship to Project Management. It's recommended to define the relationship between project management and change management early in the project when the governance structure is established. Common structures include project management and change management professionals functioning as peers and aligning their activities or positioning change management as a part of the project team with its own work stream. Integrating the project management and change management plans can ensure stakeholders in the organization align efforts to facilitate adoption of the change. Integration may occur along the following dimensions. First, roles and responsibilities. Define the relationship of the change management team to the overall project team and clarify the responsibilities of each. Collaborative partnerships should be established to maximize the successful outcome of the overall effort. Second, methodology and plan. Follow a structured methodology that aligns with the overall project management methodology. Change management efforts should begin in the project initiation stage. Third, tools and resources. Seek opportunities to leverage common tools across both disciplines for a holistic approach. Communication plan, risk assessment, mitigation plans, and resource plans are common tools to leverage across change management and project management. Objectives and outcomes. Establish and integrate change management objectives regarding adoption and usage into overall project plan objectives. And fifth, risks. Address risks that are specifically related to stakeholders, for example, resistance risks. Responsibility for tracking and mitigating risks, especially stakeholder-related risks, should be determined early in the project. The change management lead will monitor the change management plan to assure alignment with the project and communicate updates to the appropriate team members. Inputs include change management plan, project charter and project documentation, project schedule and plan. Outputs include an updated change management plan and an updated project plan. Next, we will review and approve the change plan in collaboration with the project leadership. This is to ensure that project leadership is aware of and aligned with milestones in the change management plan. Reviewing and approving of the change management plan is necessary to ensure that it is incorporated into the project plan, that the activities and milestones are coordinated with project activities. Collaboration with project leadership is essential to avoid duplication of effort, align work plans, and increase stakeholder awareness. Inputs include the change management plan, the project plan. Outputs include the approved change management plan. Finally, for this section, we'll look at developing feedback mechanisms to monitor performance to plan. Monitoring performance and adhering to deliverables generated from the change management plan enables adjustments of the plan in response to performance. Changes to the overall project plan, as well as unexpected outcomes and changes in scope, will influence the change management plan. Feedback will come from many sources. Informal sources of feedback may include conversations, email responses, and information sharing forums. Feedback mechanisms collect formal feedback and enable the team to develop responses and monitor the effectiveness of the change management plan. Feedback should be collected frequently and be scheduled for appropriate intervals for the purpose of data comparisons. Collected information should be shared with the project leadership team and incorporated into the planning of future change management activities. Inputs include the communication plan, learning and development plan, measurement and benefit realization plan, project schedule and plan, stakeholder engagement plan. Outputs include an updated communication plan, an updated learning and development plan, an updated measurement and benefit realization plan, and an updated stakeholder engagement plan.